Welcome, everybody, to the Soul of the Unexplained. I am your host, that guy, the guy with the funny looking face and the even funnier sounding last name. That's right, Jimm with two M's. And joining me, as always, is the all star team that we have assembled here, beginning with my co creator, my brother from another mother, Mr. Rogelio Stokes. Roger, how you doing, brother?
Doing great. Good to see everybody. And when you're watching, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Super excited to have you here. And as always, super excited to have John with us. And I think we have a really good lineup of topics tonight. So much has happened.
I would have to agree. And speak of the devil, Mr. John, how are you doing, sir? Good to see
Doing
you.
great. Doing great. I forgot my Bronco merch. I need to get,
Ah,
can't
well,
believe I
see,
didn't think
I
of that.
I remembered mine.
I know. I just now noticed that right as you said that. I'm like, ah, crud.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Well,
But it's good to be here as always. Love hanging with you guys, of course.
likewise. And this next week is when training camp officially begins for both of our teams. And the very first NFL game, we're just what, 2.5 weeks away from the Hall of Fame game, which is
Yeah, it's
yeah,
soon.
very soon, very soon. Alrighty, well, folks, we got all kinds of fun stuff to talk about tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about Skinwalker Ranch. We're going to do a little bit of an update on what's going on in the world of UAPs, and we're going to talk about something that I'm not quite sure how we're going to start talking about it. But those of you that are fans of the Conjuring movie franchise, and I happen to be one, and I know Roger is, and of course there was an incident that happened this last week wherein a prominent paranormal investigator by the name of Dan Rivera, who was on tour with the famous allegedly haunted artifact known as Annabelle, the Annabelle doll, and of course the same people that came up with the Conjuring movies also did the Annabelle series of movies. So this guy Dan Rivera was touring around with the Annabelle doll, and mysteriously passes away at the age of 54. And, you know, I'm 54. That's way too young to die, in my opinion. Um, so we're gonna talk about that because Roger, in particular, knows a bit about that particular paranormal investigator aspect and all kinds of those cool things associated with that. So, gentlemen, let's go ahead and get started with this most recent episode of The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, right? We had some amazing stuff that happened. And I guess if I could say there's one thing that stands out, and I'm going to quote my good buddy Jeff Freeman of the J Free 906 podcast. And folks, we're going to put a link in the description below to Jeff's podcast because he's like the gold standard when it comes to podcasting, in my opinion. And but the phrase that comes to mind regarding Skinwalker Ranch is repeatable results. So let's start there, John. Uh, First of all, let me ask you this: how important is it to be a legitimate scientific endeavor and have those repeatable results? It should be an essential thing to maintaining the integrity of a proper scientific investigation, is it not?
Yeah, absolutely. It's critical. And I think they probably do a lot of repeat experiments sometimes that maybe don't make the, the show because it's boring to people, maybe. Um, but the fact that they're doing so many different variations of the same experiments that end up reconfirming things like, I mean, we'll get to it, but you've got the laser experiments, the drone experiments, essentially trying to recreate Droneageddon, on a previous episode, but
Right.
getting different results. Now you've got New Salt Laser out there with the lasers, trying to do a variation of a previous, test and getting similar results with maybe a couple of, curveballs thrown in there, but I think that's incredibly important to just keep iterating. And I think initially in the series, it was harder for them to do that because nothing made any sense whatsoever. They
Right.
weren't even sure what where to go next, but now they've done so many different tests that are giving good enough results that now they're go, okay, now we know what if we do this test next? That'll help explain this, or like, with the boundary of the bubble. Well, let's start doing some more experiments and see, is this a real thing? Does stuff behave different on one side versus the other? Does stuff behave different when it's going through the barrier? So each
Right.
experiment leads to more experiments to confirm and either prove or disprove different hypotheses they might have. That's incredibly important, and it's really good to see. It's fun to watch too.
Yeah. Roger, how about you? How do you view the importance of the team finally starting to catalog repeatable results with many of the experiments that they're doing on the ranch?
I think it's extremely important. I've talked with people over the years, and some people that are a little bit more skeptical of the show, and during like the several first seasons, there was a lot taking place, and they were doing multiple experiments. Like for example, throwing those GPS bottles out of the sky, and it's like, well, why haven't they done that again? And I think the show, and I think Dr. Travis Taylor, Eric Bard, the team that comes up with all these experiments, I think they've done a really good job, especially in these last seasons, of showing that they are repeating experiments, and that they're doing, I think for the sake of the show too, that they're not just doing the same experiment over and over. And I think that they have on a lot of that. We just don't see that.
Right.
But it's interesting to see that they're setting up similar experiments, but changing it just slightly, but still getting the ranch to react to it, right? They're still getting those repeatable results. They're seeing whatever is affecting the GPS. There is, whether it's a time anomaly, whatever's going on there, something's throwing that off. So we are seeing repeated results. And I think whether I love that Skinwalker Ranch says this, because a lot of things and hypotheses that they are looking for or putting out there, they may not necessarily get, but the absence or something different happening is actually more telling, of the data that they get. And so, again, I think at this point in season 6, they have so much data behind them that they're comfortable saying, like, there is a bubble there, right? For whatever, we don't know what's causing it, we don't know what's generating it, but with the repeated results, we know that there's some type of boundary there. We know that there's electromagnetic interference. There are time anomalies that happen through there. GPS doesn't work. Like, you can guarantee you go through the triangle, you have a GPS device, it's not going to work. It's going to throw it in weird situations, right? Things happening with LiDAR that shouldn't happen, things showing up that wouldn't occur naturally there, the spires and things. So I really think that they've done a good job in showing the repeatability, and you have to, in any scientific investigation, show that you can repeat these experiences and get the same answers, right?
Right.
When they poke that hornet's nest and whatnot, they are getting the same things that are happening over and over. And yeah, it's interesting to see that, because something's going to happen, but like always, I think it raises more questions, and they get a little bit of an answer, and then they push forward, or like, okay, what do we do next here to try to get to that next step? What else can we do, right, to tweak it just enough so we can continue to get a response and add more data to that pool? So yeah, super important, and I'm glad that they're doing it.
Well said. And just as a disclaimer, folks, none of the three of us are credentialed scientists or physicists. We are just simply casual observers, like the bulk of, I'm sure, most of our subscribers and viewers are. So what you're hearing from us is just simply our own personal individual take. We certainly, our views don't reflect that of the team at Skinwalker Ranch or the owners of Skinwalker Ranch. This is just our own personal
Yeah.
opinions and observations as we talk about things. So please know, folks, we are not speaking from any position of authority. as it were. We're just simply armchair quarterbacks, as it were, and we're quite comfortable in that role. So um, I guess I would say another thing that really stood out to me in this most recent episode was the again, it seems we're getting more and more confirmation in each of these episodes that there is in fact this seemingly invisible barrier. When I say invisible barrier, it's invisible to the naked eye, right? And it's almost like there is some kind of an electromagnetic barrier, if you want to use the term force field, whatever. But this thing that is called the bubble that stretches from Homestead 2 all the way over on the western boundary of the property, all the way over to the east field, and of course, in the triangle area is encapsulated within that area that they've determined is called the bubble. And they've been able to go and place post markers on the perimeter of this so-called bubble, and they've been able to get data. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but they've been able to get data that shows them that the GPS anomalies, when they try to send a drone through this barrier, this bubble perimeter of the ranch, that it's around that specific perimeter is when they start getting data corruption errors, or they start seeing missing data points in the flights of the drone, or when the drones begin experiencing some kind of something going amok with them while they're flying. Am I wrong on that?
No, I think definitely right. There's something there. And it's mind-boggling. Yeah, mind-boggling. I can't even talk today, I guess. What it could be. It makes no sense at all, but there does seem to be something that happens at that barrier, if you can even call it a barrier. Like I
Right.
don't know. I don't even know how to describe what that is, and I don't think they can either, honestly. Uh, it's so it's beyond description almost because it behaves
Yeah.
so strangely and unlike anything we've ever seen before. So, but yeah, well, I'm
It's
sure you'll talk about it, but yeah, I mean, you've seen them flying the drone into it, or just
yeah.
fault tracking the GPS and all anomalies. There's something that happens right at that point. I mean, it happens elsewhere too, but right at
Right.
that boundary, weird
Absolutely.
things are afoot.
Yes, without question. And it is. It's almost like, as we've seen with the drones, and you just mentioned, John, that when Jim Royston from Omnitech is flying his drone, we're seeing all kinds of anomalous.
See, neither one of us
See,
can
you're doing
talk
it to me
today.
now, John.
Sorry,
This
sorry,
Anonymous.
it's spreading.
anomalous behavior. Let's patent that word right now.
Yes.
But this, no, we're seeing anomalous data, anomalous behavior coming from the drones, and we've seen multiple episodes now where we've seen Jim has had difficulty getting these drones to fly the pattern that they're pre-programmed to fly, and it's like something is, I mean, physically stopping and preventing the drone that Jim has. And this is no dime store drone. This is a pretty complicated piece of technology that Jim and Sam from Omnitech have put together for this drone. And the fact that we keep seeing those things happen whenever he tries flying that drone through the bubble, over the triangle, whatever the case may be, again, we come back to the repeatable results, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, it fascinates me, and that's where again I go back to the people that have been complaining about all the show's all fake and nonsense and BS. Well, again, as we always say, anybody who says that just simply is not watching the show. And if they're watching the show, they're not paying attention. They're paying more attention to eating their popcorn or their Cheetos or whatever the heck it is that they're distracted by, their phone, texting back and forth to their girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever the case may be. But they're not paying attention, because anybody that does pay attention to these episodes, there is nothing but fascinating, reality breaking, groundbreaking things that we are seeing happen on a very consistent basis. I mean, there's always at least one moment during the episodes this season and previous seasons where there's something that happens that's like, Travis's famous "what the crap" moment, right? And I I think that this season in particular, and Roger, you can tell me if you agree or disagree on this. I think that this current season of The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, we are seeing more scientific stuff than we have ever seen. And it's almost like they are becoming more laser focused, the team. Um,
Boo! Boo!
Thank you, folks. I'll be here all week. Try the veal. Tip your servers. But no, it's like they are really truly focused on trying to move the investigation forward by really kind of narrowing in where they think they're going to get the best sets of data, the best reactions, if you will, from the experiments. Now we're still seeing rocket launches, and we love that because who doesn't enjoy a good rocket launch? And we're seeing this last time they brought out once again the great team from New Salt Laser, which is a fantastic company based out of Folsom, California, by the Sacramento area, if I'm not mistaken. But they've been out to the ranch numerous times, and some of the most astounding things that have been caught on camera happened while New Salt Laser were there at the ranch conducting experiments with the team. And this last time was no different. So, as you mentioned earlier, John, we had instances where on this episode, lasers just all of a sudden started shutting down, right? Just turning off, and just to the extent that Travis had to ask them, "Are you guys purposely shutting down the lasers one by one?" And of course, Tim, the guy from New Salt Laser, is like, "That's a negative. We're just as baffled by it as you are." And so we start seeing the strange things, the ranch responding to these massive space laser cannons that they've got on the property. And once again, and John, I know we've talked a little bit about this previously, but there's a red laser, a blue laser, and a green laser. And it seems like the one laser that's getting affected the most is the green laser. What are your thoughts on that? Either you or Roger.
Roger, do you have any idea?
I I have thought about that because it's interesting, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know enough of the science behind why it would be a green laser that would be affected versus the other lasers. I mean, I would love to know more about just the atmospherics there. And, kind of it would be, I think it would be easier if I had a better scientific background or understanding of one, how those lasers work. And it's great that they do have the different colors, but yeah, why specifically is the green laser, cutting out, and which is impossible anyway. Light doesn't work that way. It's either, yeah, I mean, how it would refract around that, and yeah, I mean, that's nothing that we've ever seen before. But why green? I don't know, John. That's something.
Yeah.
If you have any ideas, I would
No.
love to hear it.
Here's the way I think of it. It's clearly, if the cameras are picking it up, that means whatever's happening is a visual effect that's really happening. Like there are photons leaving that laser, through the air that we can see, that for some reason, for at least a moment, stop arriving at the camera sensor. So something is happening there, right?
Mm-hmm.
What could that be? Does that mean only that there's something absorbing only that wavelength of light
Mm-hmm.
and nothing else? Maybe. Does that mean something is just flat out blocking. It's not like something's blocking the sky, because there's cases where you see where the lasers kind of overlap and only the green gets cut out and you see the blue is still there.
Hmm.
So that there's not something physically there. Is there something that's deflecting that wavelength of light for some reason? Like again, we've mentioned the prism
Prism
before.
effect.
There's
Yeah.
some sort of prismatic effect that's selective to a green wavelength. That, who knows? Or is it is there something in the way that is perhaps blue shifting? And we've talked about this before, how sometimes it appears like maybe something's happening with time that ends up blue shifting your electromagnetic waves.
Hmm.
Well, what if you don't have to blue shift a green too far to get it to disappear, but if that happened to green, it would also have happened to the blue. So it's not that. So I don't know.
Right.
like
Well, here's something else
it's
to
mind
consider,
boggling.
and maybe this is related, and maybe it's not. But go back to season 2 of the docuseries. And Roger, I know that you and I have talked about this at length, and we've talked to Caleb Bench about this at length. Remember, there was the one instance where Caleb was shining a tactical laser, like a laser from his firearm. He was shining it up into the triangle, and what did we see happen? We saw that laser beam split. It
Hmm.
it, it reflect it refracted, like
Yep.
bent, literally bent, and then split.
Yep. I remember
And
that. It did the
what?
bend first, and
Yes,
like the bend part stayed, and then the straight part arrived.
exactly. So
Freaking weird.
let me ask you this: what color was that laser that Caleb was using?
Green.
Green. That's
Was it
absolutely
green? I
correct.
didn't remember that for sure.
It was green.
Wow.
And then if we go back, I think to the very first season, season 1, when they were shining the lasers on the mesa from one of the observation towers,
Hours, yeah.
and remember they started seeing it was like the beam was getting reflected back and doubling,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
what color were those lasers?
You're green.
They were
Green.
green.
And you know what that reminded me of? That reminded me of, like if you're shining a light down into water,
Hmm.
some of that light's going to go across that barrier and go into the water, and some
Hmm.
of it's going to reflect off.
Yes.
That's what that effect reminded me of. Is there was the main laser signal,
Yep.
but then it was like it was hitting some sort of boundary
Hmm.
and reflecting off of that. And now I don't remember where they were. I would like to go back and watch that episode and see where they were when that happened. Weren't they toward the west
Yes.
end of things? If they were
Yeah.
near that barrier,
Because they were shining.
trouble.
This was before they ever began drilling in the mesa. It was the one where where basically what had happened is the battery on the laser got drained. Thomas started feeling the pain in the head again, and they drove him off the property. But before all that happened, Travis and somebody else, Dragon maybe, were up on the ledge of the mesa, and that laser was, but the laser was mounted from one of those observation towers. I want to say it was OS2, maybe I don't know, one of the old dog pens, right? The structure on top of that, and they were projecting it onto the mesa, and that was when they started seeing that stuff. But you're absolutely right with your observation on that, John. And the that was the thing that when we started, particularly on Jeff Freeman's program, and again, folks, cannot say it enough. Check out Jeff Freeman's podcast on Skinwalker Ranch, the J Free 906 podcast, right here on YouTube. And Jeff and Mike were talking this last week about the green lasers and the part of the electromagnetic spectrum that green takes up and the frequency and so forth associated with it. And then that got me thinking, well, why does it always seem to be the green lasers that are impacted the most? Right. And then I started thinking, now where have we seen, how many times on this docuseries have we seen green lasers exhibit anomalous behavior? And the first one that came to mind was season one, when they were shining um, the lasers up on the edge of the mesa, and they started seeing the doubling type effect of it, like it was being reflected back. And then the second one was, I think season two, when Caleb was shining the tactical laser from his gun up through the triangle, and we saw it, bend like seriously bent at an angle and then split. And and so that and then of course the amazing stuff that happened in season four, where we saw all kinds of stuff that shouldn't be possible, but yet we saw happen. Not too dissimilar from what we saw in this most recent episode, where again, the most significant stuff seems to happen within that green band of lasers. And there's got to be a reason for it. Again, I'm not a scientist. I'm not an optical scientist. I'm not a laser engineer or technician. So, but there's something to it. There's some reason why that's got to happen. And again, that's just the observation according to Jimm.
Yeah, there's something selective about whatever that phenomena is, that for that brief moment, only the green is affected. And I said in a chat the other day, it reminds me, this is as an aside, we have something at work in my line of work called when you're dealing with fiber optic, transporting data over fiber optic lines, you have a lot of different wavelengths on there.
Right.
There's something called a wavelength selective switch that can, treat one wavelength different, like it can shunt, oh, we're going to send this wavelength off this direction, and this wavelength is going to go off this direction. Like it allows you to have individual control over different wavelengths. That's what this reminds me of.
Right.
It's like, okay, in this region, we're only going to affect this wavelength and not the others. Why?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like, what's
And
doing it and why is it doing it? It doesn't make any sense.
precisely. And how does that also then tie in, if at all, to the 1.2 and 1.6 gigahertz frequencies that we're seeing? Does it? We don't know. But there seems to be, again, that repeatable result is every
Mhm.
time they start doing these experiments and start, poking the hornet's nest, as they like to call it, is when we start seeing those frequencies of the 1.2, the 1.6. Um, it's become what would seem to be a regular occurrence when they start doing that. And again, it ties into that repeatable results thing, which I think is huge. It's an indicator that this really is legit. They really are moving the needle forward. Um, again, folks, scientific discovery is a deliberate process. It takes time. It's not something that's going to resolve itself over the space of a 42-minute episode on primetime television. It's not even going to resolve itself over an entire season of 14 to 16 episodes. So these things take time, and the investigation, at least as far as the docuseries is concerned, is heading into its seventh season now. And do they have any answers yet? Probably not, but you know what? They're still getting amazing data. And I think they're starting to put together some of the pieces of the puzzle. But the thing to bear in mind as well, and we'll kind of tie up the Skinwalker Ranch thing with this, there is no one size fits all approach answer to this phenomena at Skinwalker Ranch. Because how is it that we go from an anomaly like the bubble and the things that we see happening with the lasers, but then you've got this other thing with the dire wolf, right? Okay, or
Mhm.
for those of you that still aren't comfortable calling it a dire wolf, then the unknown, uncatalogued species that they found the carcass of, you know, during last season, that they've now had the DNA results that say, yes, 11% can be traced to the known gray timber wolf, but The remaining 89% of the DNA is uncatalogued, unrecognized, unknown, and that's not insignificant, folks. Now,
Well, and
if
they
you,
said the part that matches with a wolf is like European
yeah,
species of wolves,
yeah.
not even the
So,
American variety.
right, and again, folks, according to the Utah Department of Wildlife Resources or Natural Resources, there is no cataloged and known population of gray wolves, timber wolves, or anything that would fit the description of the creature that was discovered on Skinwalker Ranch. They just simply do not exist in the state of Utah. Now, is it possible that, again, quite obviously, with 89% of the DNA on this thing being unrecognized, that we may be dealing with a uncatalogued descendant of the actual dire wolf that went extinct over 10,000 years ago? It may it's even that, if that alone is not enough to impress you and say, wow, that's fascinating, then I don't know what's going to do it for you, folks. I mean, I get the people that aren't comfortable calling it a dire wolf because it's not, maybe not quite there, but 89%, that's, practically 9 out of 10, right? An 89 to 90%, unknown.
It's
Regardless,
unusual. It's unusual.
it is very, very unusual. But that again illustrates the disparity that you have between the anomalies that happen on the ranch. You get the good old fashioned poltergeist activity, right? And then you also have the accounts that Caleb shared with us, regarding the big wolf tracks that they've seen
Mhm.
out on the property, some kind of large canine. Chris Bartell has told us about that. Chris Bartell has seen
I was gonna say he's
these.
seen it.
He has seen this large wolf creature.
Yeah.
So the fact that there is something out there that eludes capture on camera, capture with whatever you want to call it, there's definitely something there. Something is leaving evidence. It's leaving footprints. And Pete Kelsey has also come forward and said that he has seen these things. And what did they say on Jeff's podcast a week or so ago, that somebody had a size 13 shoe? I don't know if that was Pete or Caleb,
Right.
but they put down their foot next to this track, and the track was bigger than that size 13 shoe. Now, I wear a size 12 shoe, so I got pretty big feet, relatively speaking. But I mean, I don't know if, for you folks that aren't familiar with wildlife, a go look at the footprint of a dog, a large breed dog like even a Saint Bernard, and compare that to what Caleb Bench, Chris Bartell, and Pete Kelsey have seen on the property. And it's nowhere near as big. It's nowhere near as, I mean, these prints that they're finding are larger than even known gray wolves. And that just, again, it plays into the fact that there is some truly unknown large predator animal, apex predator, and especially now that we know that it's been eating these coyotes and is able to
Right.
digest the bones. You're
Mhm.
talking about narrowing the list down even shorter, folks, of apex predators that can do that. And we talked about that a little bit the last time we did the podcast. You've got Ben Woodruff, who is an expert in these things, and I cannot stress enough, Ben Woodruff, who is the biologist that is out there helping them on the ranch, he has done the research and he can confirm that yes, a dire wolf would have been big enough to digest the bones of this coyote. And the only other known animals, predator animals, that can be found in the United States that would do that would be, again, you get into the big reptiles, alligators, and then, you could make an argument that maybe something like a polar bear or, something like that. But Komodo dragon, monitor lizards, which aren't even found in the United States or North America. I mean, it boggles the mind, folks. It just adds another layer of the mystery. So even if you're focused on just one area, let's say you're focused on the bubble and figuring that out, that's astounding in and of itself. But wait, there's more. Here's the cryptids, the dire wolf, the carcass of this creature, and then you have let's also talk about this. Remember back in season 4, they talked about the strange rate of decomposition of animals that were found on the property. Now, I'm not going to go into detail on that because there was some stuff that was revealed recently in one of the insider Q&As that we're not at liberty to discuss. But Ben Woodward was on recently and talked about. He gave us a lot more detail, really like eye-opening, jaw-dropping additional information about the strange rate of decomposition of dead animals on the ranch. So there's that. That's another thing that, a whole other mystery in and of itself. And then there's the mesa, right? We haven't even touched upon the mesa yet in this episode. Just all the stuff that goes on there and the mystery there. It's like Skinwalker Ranch is the gift that just keeps on giving. Right?
It really does. It's like, oh, let's throw some wolf tracks at them and see what they think about that. And then, okay, let's throw some bending lasers and disappearing green lasers at them and see what they think. Okay, well, let's see what happens if I just block this drone in flight. What happens if we make this rocket hang in the air for 30 seconds?
Right.
Or we
Bring
just
out the
throw
dire
in
wolf.
we just throw in some, self-healing ceramics that repairs itself at
I
the,
totally forgot about
at the
that.
molecular level.
How,
What?
how do we even? This show's so weird that I completely forgot about the self-healing ceramic. What the hell is up
Yeah.
with it?
Like literally, if we could replicate that at a cellular level or molecular level, like you know how many things diseases we could prevent and stop and change, and it'd be insane.
Crazy technology, but
Yeah.
yeah, we just found it a few hundred feet inside a mesa in Utah, middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
Exactly. So yeah, folks, Skinwalker Ranch is truly the gift that keeps on giving. I mean, there is so much to be fascinated by, and honestly, folks, I mean, yes, admittedly, I am 100% a fanboy, and I will not apologize for it because I find everything that goes on there very interesting, very fascinating, and the fact that this stuff even exists and happens and that they catch it on film and they're able to verify the weirdness and the strangeness on multiple sensor platforms with multiple witnesses. How can you not just be absolutely awed and mystified at what we see unfold on a regular basis there at the ranch? And just imagine if it's like that for us that are fans watching the show. Put yourself in the shoes of the gentlemen that actually are there on the ranch, the team members, the film crew, the production team, the vendors like New Salt Laser and Lunasond and Sky Elements and all of the great vendors that they brought out on the ranch over the years. They all experience some kind of episode while at the ranch, and that's again, there is no place on earth that's like it, and I think it's really what a privilege and an honor it is for me anyway. I don't know, I don't want to speak for the rest for you two gentlemen, but it's been a privilege and honor just to be able to watch all this unfold and to the fact that Brandon Fugel lets us, have this kind of an in-depth look into the scientific investigation that's going on. I mean, there's nothing like it out there. There really isn't. And the secret of Skinwalker Ranch is, you've heard me talk about Jeff Freeman's J Free 906 podcast being the gold standard. Well, Brandon Fugel, with what he has created with the secret of Skinwalker Ranch, teamed up with Prometheus as that is the gold standard for this kind of television, where it is not scripted, and they are using credentialed scientists, some of the foremost experts, subject matter experts in the world, are who you find doing the experiments out on the ranch. And they are being as transparent as their NDAs and as the situations allow them to be. And again, I'm going to sound like a broken record in saying it, but what an exciting time to be alive, and what a great time to be able to watch all of these mysteries play out before our very eyes. And I, for one, am just so grateful to still be here, being able to watch it all happen. And I'll
You
give
mentioned the other people that come in to investigate, to support the regular team members. I'd never thought about this until now, but now that the ranch has a reputation, the show's been on for a few years. Can you imagine them reaching out to a new company to come in and research? They ring, ring, hey, you want to come out to Skinwalker Ranch? And they hang up, and they're like, ah, crap. We've seen what happens to everybody else that goes on that damn show. Do we want to risk our reputations by going on there too? And, you
right.
know, but of course,
Right.
they'll all be like, well, our stuff won't do that.
Yes, absolutely. Roger, closing thoughts on Skinwalker Ranch from you.
Yeah, it's never so I born and raised here in Utah, and I would never have put on my bingo card or thought when I was younger, seeing those billboard signs for commercial real estate that said Brandon Fugel on it, that would actually be associated with Skinwalker Ranch and just the high strangeness. And, Jimm, back when you and I first met so long ago, that was always a topic that we would talk about. Skinwalker Ranch and, the hunt for skinwalkers, and that first book that came out by George Knapp and company. I mean, from there to where we are here and seeing what's happened is just amazing. And I think that, yeah, I think we're living in a time where typically trust and transparency is not on the top of anybody's mind, right?
Mhm.
People want to keep things close to them for whatever reasons. And I'm really grateful that Brandon put this together and he decided to open up the ranch for scientific study. And, I'm sure he takes a lot of ridicule, as a lot of people do, because, again, if you're watching the show with an open intent of really trying to understand, I don't see how you can miss the point of the things going on out there. And it's not like they're bringing in people that don't have credentials. Like, people have put their names and their livelihoods, on the line with this show, and saying the things that they say. So, I mean, if that's not enough there, I mean, just look at the science, look at the things that are happening that are transparent, and the scientific process being played out. So yeah, I'm super happy with it, and I think the everybody out there has done a phenomenal job, and I just can't wait to see what they continue to uncover and share with us. So
Well said. And yeah, again, massive, massive tip of the hat to Brandon Fugel for everything that he does, and allowing us to have this glimpse into this absolutely wonderfully weird place known as Skinwalker Ranch. And folks, if you would like to enjoy an inside look at what goes on at the ranch when the cameras for the docuseries aren't rolling, the best way to really learn everything you can and interact with the team members at Skinwalker Ranch, as well as like-minded, curious souls like me and Roger and John, is to become a Skinwalker Ranch insider. And you can do that and learn more about that. And I'll make sure that I put the link down in our description for that as well. But just simply go to www.skinwalker-ranch.com/insider. And the insider program is, there's so much you can learn from being an insider. And you do get to, there's a free trial period I think you can do, and then you have a choice of either doing a monthly subscription or a yearly subscription. If you go for the yearly subscription, you also get a really cool exclusive T-shirt that gets sent out to you. But all three of us, me, Roger, and John, we are all proud, longtime members of the Skinwalker Ranch Insider community. And I'm telling you, folks, it's one of the greatest online communities I have ever been a part of. and it's been a privilege and pleasure to be a part of that as well. And again, massive tip of the hat to Brandon Fugel and Eric Bard and all of the folks at Skinwalker Ranch that particularly the moderators and everybody, our good friend Michelle Stratton, and of course, got to give a shout out to Debbie and Heather and a whole bunch of other great people. Robert Davies, Shannon, who I don't think is a moderator anymore, but truly some of the finest human beings you'll ever come across. And so, again, folks, check out the Skinwalker Ranch Insider program to learn more and become as in the know about Skinwalker Ranch as me, John, and Roger. So with that, folks, let's. What else do we have on the docket? Should we start talking about Annabelle now, Roger?
Yeah, so we're jumping from the UAP topic and the high strangeness over into the paranormal field. So, and that's something that we've talked about previously on our podcast before, but it's not something that we've gone into a lot. But we do have some news. So there is a gentleman who is a pretty well known and respected paranormal investigator, and his name is Dan Rivera. And again, he is known in most of the like the ghost hunting circles and paranormal investigations. A great family guy, on the up and up. He was a part of a tour. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with, it depends if you like the horror genre, the Conjuring, but it all started back with Ed and Lorraine Warren. They're a pretty famous duo back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and whatnot. Lorraine was a very gifted psychic, and her husband, Ed, was a demonologist. And they worked a lot of these different cases, and a lot of the Conjuring movies or the Annabelle series, things like that came from their files of things that they interacted with. So if you like horror films and good scares and stuff like that, check out The Conjuring and that series. It's good stuff. Jimm,
Especially the first two movies. The first Conjuring movie is genuinely scary. It's a really, really well done movie. Lots of jump scares. And of course, it's based on a true story. The second Conjuring movie takes place in England, whereas the first Conjuring movie, I think, takes place is Rhode Island or
yeah,
someplace back on the east coast of the U.S. But the second one takes place in England, and it's every bit as scary and well done as the first one. The third one was pretty good, but it kind of lacked some of the punch of the first two Conjuring films. But the fourth and final Conjuring film is coming up, I think, in September or October.
yeah.
But the same director, James Wan, has done the Conjuring series, and he also did the Insidious franchise, those two movies as well, and some of the same actors in both the first two Insidious films and the first, the Conjuring films. What's his name? Patrick Wilson.
Yeah.
Is in both the Insidious and the Conjuring franchise. But Annabelle and Roger, I guess we can give a little bit of a background on this doll called Annabelle. Now there are a number, might be two or three movies about this doll Annabelle. Now in the movies, that's not what the real Annabelle looks like. The real Annabelle doll is an actual Raggedy Ann character doll. And if you're old like me, and I'm sure John probably remembers Raggedy Ann and Andy, right? And they were famous children's toys that go back, I want to say probably back as far as the 40s and 50s, if not maybe even earlier than that. But this allegedly demonically possessed doll known as Annabelle is actually the real artifact is a Raggedy Ann doll, not like the one that you actually see in the movies. And so, Roger, tell us a little bit about the background from about Annabelle, in so much as you can recall.
Yeah, so basically, as the story goes, there were some nursing students back, I think, around 1968, 69, that had been gifted this Annabelle doll, or this Raggedy Ann doll. And anyway, they noticed that there was some strange things going on with it. They contacted a medium who said that it was possessed by a spirit of a young girl named Annabelle, which hence the name Annabelle came along. The events in that story, as told by these nursing students, is that things took, I guess, a really serious wrong turn where violent things were happening to them, just strange things that went above a normal paranormal haunting. It was almost demonic, where, things were moving, and, the doll was moving on its own. They'd come back and there's things written all over the ceilings, and things like that. So anyway, Ed and Lorraine Warren went and investigated and basically confirmed that yes, this was a if you believe in such things, a demon possessed doll. It was demonic, and they removed Annabelle from the uh, the students and took it back to their museum. So they have an artifact museum, Ed and Lorraine Warren, where they would store these objects to keep them out of the basically keep them out of the public's view and protect people from them. So you may have seen the picture of Annabelle with the warning. It says, "Warning, positively do not open," and things like that. So that's the backstory of the doll. So it's a if you are into the paranormal and investigations and things like that, you've most likely heard of this doll, or an iteration of this doll. But yeah, there's been a lot of, I guess, speculation around the doll and a lot of the artifacts that the Warrens have collected over the years. And again, the Warrens have said, do not mess around with these things. Ed and Lorraine Warren have passed. They are no longer with us. But they did create a foundation called the NSPR, and basically it oversees all of their possessed objects, their cursed objects, and things that they collected over their lifetime. And getting back to what we were originally talking about, Dan Rivera, who's a paranormal investigator, was a part of this foundation, and basically they put together a tour where you could sign up, and basically we're touring across the nation where you could actually see the original Annabelle in its case. And what happened is last week, because he was the one touring it, unfortunately, he passed away in his hotel room. So the big news here is that there have been a lot of speculation as to, was this Annabelle that caused his death? Was this certainly a tragic death for sure? What we do know for certain is that an autopsy and the results of what actually happened to Dan, it's going to be 30 to 60 days before anything is released. And so I know there's been a lot of speculation out there, and a lot of people have been making some pretty audacious claims about, oh, he was killed because he was doing this tour and this was Annabelle's revenge. And again, this guy's a really very, very nice gentleman, family man, and I do appreciate a lot of the supporters that have come out and just basically said, this is a very tragic situation. He was a great guy. Let's focus on that. But again, we just wanted to make mention of it because it is paranormal news, and you are going to have a lot of people that do believe in curses and do believe in not messing around with some of these objects. And so again, I think we'll get more information as time goes by as to how he did pass away, but it is a loss to the community, and it is unfortunate that he was on tour when this happened. And definitely condolences out to his family and his friends. And it's got to be a difficult time. And with the famous artifacts and this tour, right, it's probably bringing a lot of undue attention to the family and things like that, which can cause negative things. And so we just wanted to make mention of it here that, we do follow the paranormal as well. And if you have questions on that, let us know in the question and answer, and we'll definitely like to talk more about it. But you guys, what are your thoughts on this whole situation?
Well, I'll go first unless John wants to dive in.
I don't really have much to add.
Okay. Well, I would just start by echoing what Roger had to say in the sense that my thoughts and best wishes go out to Dan Rivera's loved ones. Offer my sincerest condolences and sympathies on the untimely passing of Dan Rivera. Regardless of what anybody thinks about the paranormal topic and whether or not an inanimate object can possess an evil spirit or anything like that, that's beside the point. The fact is that a prominent individual that is in this particular circle of paranormal enthusiasts, I guess we could say, uh, passed away unexpectedly. That is the definition of tragedy, and I'm certainly not even going to begin to diminish the importance of stating that, and we want to preserve our humanity the best that we can by doing just that, by saying it's unfortunate that this gentleman passed away uh, under the circumstances that he did, certainly mysterious circumstances. As far as do I believe that all of the mythology and the folklore around Annabelle? I have to be honest, no, I do not. But is that saying that I don't think it's possible? Of course, but I'm going to remain a skeptic. I will still have an open mind, but I will say that I do think that demonic spirits and possessions are a very real thing. That I'm not going to say is all hooey and nonsense. It is very real, but I just am I willing to make the leap that a demonic possession can take over an inanimate object like a child's plaything or a chair or a car or anything like that. That's a much harder sell for me. But I will say it's still fascinating for me to read about. There are certainly some eyebrow raising coincidences that seem to go along with the folklore uh, associated with Annabelle. Um, the Warrens, I think the work that the research that I've done on the Warrens, they seem like very good, decent people. Um, they were clearly a couple that were very much in love, and uh, they were just I think they were staunch Christians, staunch Catholics by as far as denomination goes, and anybody that I've talked to that is actually that knew them for any length of time all said that get rid of all the stuff that they're known for and just get down to what kind of people were they. They were good people. Uh, so I certainly don't have any issue with that. But again, where I divulge or diverge in the wood, as it were, when it comes to tales of possession and demons and things like that, I have to stick to what my own faith teaches me and tells me. And I just I I don't see how a demonic spirit can possess a Raggedy Ann doll or even a Darth Vader doll, right? Um, show me, show me some kind of data that substantiates repeatable results that show that there is truly something genuinely anomalous going on affiliated with this artifact, I guess is the way that I would put it. But I still think it's cool. I again I do believe that hauntings are a real thing. I do believe that we are surrounded by spirits. I do believe that when human beings experience physical death, I do believe that our spirit, our energy, our life force, our consciousness, whatever you want to call it, I believe that that part of us lives on in a different state, perhaps in a different dimension. So to that end, I have to accept the fact that there are, what we would term as ghosts or spirits that are out there. So I absolutely believe that that's real. But where we start getting into demonic possession, it's a little more of a slippery slope for me. But I don't discount the possibility out of hand. I will say that much. But holy cow, do I love the Conjuring movies. I love the movies. They're in fact, I think the first Conjuring film was one of the highest rated as far as critics go and Rotten Tomatoes scores. I think it's one of the highest rated horror films of all time, and with good reason. It's a really, really good film with an excellent cast, excellent direction, and again, jump scare moments that you'll be talking about for years. So I love the franchise. I love the Conjuring. I love the story behind it. The story behind it is a very compelling story about the possession that took place, and I absolutely believe that what happened at least for the first Conjuring storyline, I believe it was real. I believe it really did happen. I believe that those horrible events did in fact happen to that poor family. But selling me on Annabelle is it's I need a little more data on that to really truly bring me in. So,
Well, Jim, you
John,
do have a cursed object in your possession. I think it's your hat. It says Raiders.
okay,
Gonna have to
I
agree
I'm
there,
drinking
Roger.
I'm drinking a grape Fanta, an ice cold grape Fanta from Mexico, and I'm going to not respond to that comment, Roger.
I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist. My apologies.
No worries. John, how about you?
As far as the Annabelle stuff, or
Well, I'm not going to ask you what you think about the Raiders because you're going to say they're Satan
all
incarnate.
right. I mean,
They're they're
I
they
could
are
go
living
on about the Raiders if you'd like.
they're living proof of evil in the universe, right? Sure. No, yeah. What
Absolutely.
what are your thoughts on not just Annabelle, but just on the general notion of quote unquote haunted artifacts? Um, I just kind of give us your view on that if you wouldn't mind sharing that with us.
I am not sure what to make of all that type of thing. I've kind of been following Greg and Dana Newkirk, for a few years, and I think they're pretty legit for the most part. I really think they know what they're doing, and I appreciate and respect their opinions, and they run a haunted objects museum, and they have all this stuff in their house, and they've had some legitimately strange things happen, with some of the objects, not
Hmm.
probably not most of them, but occasionally, someone will send them something that's like, hey, I need to get rid of this. Will you please take it? And they're like, sure, no problem.
Hmm.
And they see some pretty strange stuff, and
Right.
have some strange occurrences happen. And they've even made a movie called The Unbinding about someone finding one of these objects out in the woods and taking it out of the woods. Stuff started happening to them, and they're like, I might have really screwed up taking this from where I found it. What do I do to make all this stuff stop? And then it was,
Hmm.
and I believe they're telling the truth, for the most part. I think they're legit.
Hmm.
Uh, so, but I don't know, like what the mechanism of that is. I don't know. Is it an
Yeah.
egregore? Is it someone putting thought and emotion into something, and that thought form actually begins to have a behavior?
Hmm.
Maybe it's something like that. Like it wasn't really possessed, but then people kind of made it possessed just because focusing on it and thinking on it, and maybe,
Mhm.
because we've had that discussion before. Can thoughts create?
Can they
Can
manifest? Yeah.
manifest? Yeah, well,
And
exactly.
that's how we're going to tie all this in, is that very subject. So
Right.
keep,
And
so carry on.
so maybe there's not a spirit or a demon possessing something, but maybe through some process or procedure or happenstance,
Mhm.
depending on the circumstances, maybe certain objects can be imbued with this thought form that just becomes, it might just be even an automaton. It's probably not conscious. Maybe it's just doing something that is you've programmed with your consciousness to behave a certain way, and now it starts behaving that way. I have no idea. I don't know what to make of any of that. To, it,
Right.
it's really strange. I won't say I believe it one way or the other, but people I trust have had weird experiences with some of that. So,
Yeah. And
oh,
I like the way you phrased that, John, because, again, I have to look no further than Skinwalker Ranch, because had you told me, you know, 7, 8 years ago that I would have seen the things that I've seen, the shadow person, the shadow being experiences that I've had, um, I'm a much different person now than I was back then because I'm an experiencer. And obviously, when it comes to somebody who experiences these strange, high strangeness or anomalous incidents, I've talked about it a number of times. You cross that threshold where you're never the same. It redefines your entire thought process. It re it re it reconstructs the way that you view reality, quite frankly. And so, again, that's why I'm saying, even though I'm skeptical, very skeptical when it comes to inanimate objects like Annabelle being quote unquote possessed, I'm also not shutting the door on it completely, because, as Skinwalker Ranch has taught us, even things that just simply should not be anywhere else other than the pages of science fiction, but yet here they are happening, and we're watching them happen, and we've got the data to support that it happens. So
just because something's impossible doesn't mean it's not happening, right?
exactly, and just because there hasn't been any data, and maybe it's because we, again, maybe the right kind of scientific team hasn't been put on the case to really do the data to support something like Annabelle really genuinely being as bad as she claims to be. So again, I do not shut the door on it completely. I'm just simply saying, okay, you've got my attention, but let's see something. Let's see some data that draws a conclusion, or at least a strong hypothesis. Um, and where Annabelle's concerned, I haven't seen that yet. And if that information's out there, by all means, direct me to it, because I'm certainly open minded to read it. But no, as far as hauntings, possessions of humans and living creatures, absolutely, I believe that's real, and there's all kinds of documented instances of that happening, going clear back to the days of Christ, right? So, as an active practicing Christian, I have to believe that those things are real. I mean, there really genuinely is, in my opinion, a tangible good and a tangible evil. You know, so I believe that good and evil does exist in the universe. How we perceive that is always open for debate, I suppose. But yeah, it's a very interesting story. This thing with Annabelle, and again, the passing of Dan Rivera is it's kind of brought that whole thing out into the mainstream again. And you know, and please, folks, don't take this as me throwing shade or casting aspersions on ghost hunters and stuff like that. It's just, what I have a hard time with is not so much the act that they're engaging in, it's the way that it's dramatized and sensationalized on TV. It's kind of ridiculous. You watch some of these ghost hunting shows, and you're just like, I watch it, and I'm like, No, that is such wow. No, I can't even meet him halfway on that. But again, I hold up Skinwalker Ranch. Skinwalker Ranch has some genuinely scary stuff. That's not a scripted show. They have credentialed, well respected scientists. We have a guy working at Skinwalker Ranch who was the chief operating officer for the laboratory on the International Space Station. Okay. We have Dr. Travis Taylor, who was the science officer for the UAP Task Force. He's worked for NASA. So Pete Kelsey is one of the world's most respected imaging experts when it comes to LIDAR. So these are not just, some guy that, is a weekend warrior that decides, hey, let's go ghost hunting because it's kind of cool. And hey, I've got a camera and night vision. So I just, I haven't seen too many of these ghost hunting shows and ghost adventure shows where we have that same blueprint or same model, if you will, for something like the Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, where we have credentialed, scientists. Because unless I'm mistaken, you can't go to an accredited university and and major in parapsychology, right? I mean, if there is, it's news to me. You might be able to take a class here or two and study a few things. Certainly, study some classes on stuff like demonology, but what exactly is an expert in parapsychology? I mean, even that is probably open for debate. But again, in me saying so, I'm honestly not trying to throw a wet blanket on it. It's just that unfortunately, you get a lot of things that follow along with the ghost hunting stuff that, forgive me, is absolute bullshit. And you know that it is. You know that it's just there for the entertainment and it's just there to sensationalize and dramatize. Whereas you have something that is definitely more science focused. And just my personal preference, I mean, yes, I want to be entertained, but I also want to learn and I want to be able to substantiate with hard scientific data that the weird stuff that I'm seeing on camera really is happening. And we get that with The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch with an awful lot of these paranormal ghost hunting shows. We don't really see that. Am I wrong on that?
I think there's, yeah, I mean, you kind of have to pick and choose what you're watching and look at it as a lens of, is this entertainment? What's going on? What is the theme? I mean, and I'm speaking for me personally, having had, paranormal experiences pretty much my whole life. I would say that the one, I'm not gonna, I would say the one ghost hunting show that I at least enjoyed and respected because it was approached through we're trying to debunk things that could happen in your house that would make sense because of old pipes and things like that, right? So
Right.
there is a little bit of the scientific method going on. Obviously, I mean, you don't get a degree in paranormal and things like that. It's mostly through experience, but Jason Hawes and company, I do respect Ghost Hunters, the original Ghost Hunters, and that show. I think a lot of other shows sprang up from that and tried to emulate, and then that got into where when you watch the show, you can just see like, okay, this is not real, this is not happening, and right, it lends to it's like that hasn't been my experience, but so I like for me, you gotta look at the show, dig into the people who are doing it, what's their purpose, why are they doing it? Is this something that, if you were to give them a call, would they come out and do it for free, or are they going to charge you money, right? And what is that ultimately in the end? What are they trying to do? And so, for me, that's, I do enjoy a lot of those shows, like you said, Jim. But yeah, a lot of them are fake. And if you want some entertainment, yeah, definitely watch them. But I think that there are a couple, and somebody who, I mean, and this may be controversial, or whatnot, but somebody who I think is trying to go after the truth in the paranormal realm, who's going to be at Phenomenon, is Jack Osborne. So I watched a lot of
Yes.
the stuff that he's done, and you know, I mean, he's put together some what I think is some credible evidence of paranormal stuff and hauntings, and even potentially catching a skinwalker on camera out in the Uinta Basin. So, um, I think you just really have to look at the person and what they're doing it for and all that. But yeah, it's if it doesn't follow any logical sense or there's no quantifiable data, or if the data, oh, it's going to come along here, or if they're just stringing it along to the next episode kind of a thing, then yeah, I wouldn't waste my time with it.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Phenomenon because there's um, the Cypress Paranormal group that have been at Phenomenon for the last several years. I had a chance to briefly get to know them by way of Jeff Freeman's podcast, and I think that they are on the level. I think that they are really truly tapped into something. I think that they are people of integrity and good character. So I think they're another example of somebody that's doing it right. Another person that I really genuinely like that's in the field is Dave Schrader. Um, the Holzer files, right? He's not only is he an absolutely amazing public speaker, he always gives among the best presentations at Phenomenon that I've seen. But I think he's another one that has his head on straight and is really trying uh, to approach it from a much more credible uh, position if I'm articulating it properly. But I really like the stuff that Dave Schrader has done. So yes, Jack Osborne I think is great, especially when he's teamed up with Jason Mewes, right? And but yeah, him and Dave Schrader and Cypress Paranormal. We have some great people coming to Phenomenon. And Greg Lawson, right? Greg Lawson, the paranormal detective. He's another guy that I absolutely trust because he follows an established, proven scientific method for establishing hypothesis, verifying or falsifying hypotheses, I guess we would say. So yeah, there are some genuinely good people out there that are doing stuff like that, and so I do have hope. It's just I think probably 80% or more of the paranormal shows that are on the Discovery Channel, uh, it's like bad comedy. A lot of it really is. And look for proof. Look no further than Vampires in America. And yeah,
That's real, Jim. That's real.
no, it is not. So, John, anything else news wise? Wink, wink,
There,
nudge,
there,
nudge.
there was something UAP related.
Tell
Uh,
us, tell us about it.
well, you had mentioned it earlier prior to the show. Jay Stratton, our friend and bandmate, came out in support of the UAPDA on in a post on X. Do you have that with you there?
I do, and that was quite the surprise. Just kind of came out of nowhere. So again, folks, even though Jay is a very good friend of ours and a bandmate, sometimes Jay surprises even us. So just real
I would say
quickly,
most of the time he
yeah,
surprises.
most of the time Jay surprises us. Yes. So I'll just real quickly read to you folks what Jay said on X a couple of days ago. He said, I support the historic bipartisan UAP Disclosure Act led by Senator Rounds and Senator Schumer. This legislation endeavors to give the public long overdue transparency on what the U.S. government knows about UAP. It's an essential next step towards disclosure, not just for the American people, but for all of humanity. To show your support, please sign this petition, and the URL is uapda.org/petition. Again,
Mhm.
uapda.org/petition. So let's briefly talk about that mind bomb, shall we? So,
I don't have
John.
time. I'm signing this petition.
All right. Well, you're doing that, Roger. What are your thoughts on Jay's tweet there?
Yeah, I actually think this is super exciting, and I was really happy to see Jay lend his support to this and announce this publicly. So really, it's a petition to, like it says, if you go to the website, demand the truth on UAP, and it's really right now we are, you may have, listening to the UFO topics, the UAP topics, we're in the age of disclosure, and you're going to hear that word or those words a lot. And it really, it's a taking this action, signing this is showing that we, as a community of people, humanity, want more answers and accountability from our governments, people that are in the know. And this is a really, for me, a good first step where you can stand with millions and millions of like-minded people to say and demand, adding your name to that list that you want to know and understand what is going on with UAPs, right? We want to know, especially because ever since what 2017, where it really picked up with the New York Times, the posts about the UAPs, the Tic Tacs, and things like that, and all the congressional hearings that we've had. Right, we want to keep that momentum going, and we, at least for me, I am super curious to continue to hear from these whistleblowers, and not it's I guess for me personally, it's discouraging to see sometimes the harassment and things that they go through, especially by our own government, our own people, um, to discredit them or to push them down and silence them. And I think, I mean, moreover, in our day of an age of technology, we see things that are just simply cannot be explained. And I think that we, as the UAP community, and humanity, deserve answers, and I think this is a great first step.
Well said, John. How about you?
Um, you know, Hang on a second. I just noticed something. I was about to make another comment, but I was looking back after I finished. I went ahead and signed the petition, and I went back to the main page, UAPDA, .org. And right there across the top of the page, there are several, links that you can click on to, take action, learn more, get a timeline for the bill. And then there is a link to Age of Disclosure, which has the official trailer to the documentary with Jay of the same name. How cool is that? I didn't
Which,
notice that before.
and one of us on this podcast has actually seen Age of Disclosure. I wonder who that
One of
is.
us has seen it, and it is wonderful. I I can't wait for people to see it. It's driving me crazy that it's taken so long to get out because
Right.
I mean, again, for people like us that follow the topic, a lot of it is stuff we've heard before, but there is some new stuff in there. And the fact that it's coming from the people in that movie,
Right.
it is, it's viscerally different to see it coming from that caliber of people,
Mhm.
compared to some other similar documentaries. It's just incredible. You're just sitting there going, "Holy cow! I can't believe they just said what they just said, publicly." It's the sort of thing that a lot of us might think, but to hear people of that caliber just come out and say it, it's kind of interesting. I mean, I won't spoil any of it, but
Right.
trust me when I say, when it is eventually out,
Yeah.
on whatever platform, I still have no clue how it's actually going to be distributed or how it's going to be released. But when it is, wherever it is, you need to go watch it. So that's what I think about this topic. Is
That's
there are people there are people that I think you can trust on this topic, and I think there are some people you can't. And a lot of the people you can trust are in this documentary. You know,
right.
Anybody that knows us knows we're Team Stratton, right?
Yes,
All the way.
we are Team Stratton 100,000%. 1000%.
Yeah, yeah. But you wouldn't know this from the trailer, but Travis is in it too. And oh, sorry. I was about to share a little anecdote from the screening I saw, but
No,
then
no, go ahead.
I think I
This
probably
is, you know,
I
this
would
is,
get in trouble probably if I said what I was gonna say.
well, you've already talked about that.
No, 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 no.
That's J Mother effing Stratton right there.
That's one of them. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was a fun time. It was a fun time. But yeah, I mean, I think it's an important topic, and we need to start getting better about filtering, the BS from the people that are real. I mean, there are people out there that are the real deal,
Yes,
and there are some that I think are full of crap.
yes.
And it's becoming increasingly difficult to tell one from the other. Um, but yeah, I think the topic in general is of critical importance.
I would agree. And the thing that I am most encouraged by, and gentlemen, we talked about this in the green room before we began recording tonight's episode. But if there is one topic that unites Washington, D.C. on both sides of the aisle, where you have hardcore, traditional, conservative Republican, MAGA all the way. And over here, you've got the traditional liberal Democrats like Chuck Schumer and the progressive, almost socialist leftist Democrats like AOC coming together with guys like Timmy Burchett and Eric Burleson. And these people on every other topic will be at each other's throats, claws out, no mercy shown, right? It's all about political grandstanding and what can I do to make you suffer because you're a Republican or you're a Democrat or you're a liberal or a conservative, right? And that, folks, is why I'm a genuine independent. So that notwithstanding. But this is the one topic where we see all of that partisanship disappear because we all want to get to the bottom of this. And if there is truly one topic that not only unites Washington, D.C., but that I believe has the potential to unite all of America, but also all of humanity, would be to find out and just to get the actual confirmation that we are not alone on this planet. And as time goes on, the more I firmly believe we are not the only intelligence, we being humanity. I don't believe we're the only intelligence on this planet, and I don't think we're the apex of that intelligence on this planet or in the universe. And it stands to reason. So, to that end, anything that moves that needle forward, that moves that ball forward, when it comes to learning more of the actual truth about UAPs, I don't see how that is a bad thing because no government, no corporate entity has the right to control reality. And if reality is that we are, in fact, not alone on this planet, whether that means that we're being visited by extraterrestrial interstellar beings that come from another planet somewhere, or if they're interdimensional in nature and they're always here on this planet, they just reside in a different dimension, but they can pass into our dimension and theirs, flawlessly, seamlessly. Or are we dealing with a crypto-terrestrial, or as some call them, an ultra-terrestrial race that is a highly advanced intelligence that has always been on planet Earth right alongside humanity throughout the ages, that we're only able to detect more frequently now because our own technology has advanced to the point to where we can now detect these things at a greater rate than we used to be able to. Because the reports of this phenomena, John, go back not decades, it goes back hundreds, thousands of years. We have reports, there are stories in the ancient Hindu scriptures. There are reports of, these same type of anomalous things appearing in the skies going back to the ancient indigenous races here on the North American continent, the Native Americans. And it's not just in this part of the world, it's all over the world that we see accounts of these things occurring. And so you can't say that something like the Tic Tac should be dismissed as, oh, that's just top secret Lockheed technology. Well, okay, maybe, but guess what? The same type of maneuvers that the Tic Tac was showing were also being seen back in the 1950s. Okay, back in the 1950s, when the fastest that a jet could go was maybe 800 or 900 miles per hour. So, and certainly not being able to handle the G forces that are involved with some of the maneuverability of something like the Tic Tac. So, I I do believe that we have at least one other non-human intelligence that is present on this planet. Where it comes from, I wouldn't begin to be able to tell you. What its intentions are, I honestly don't know. But I think it's coming close to the time that the people that are in our government, and I do believe that there is a small group within our government that does know maybe not all of the answers, but that does have some of the most essential answers, that I think we, not just as Americans, but that we as humanity have a right to know. We have a right to understand what the reality of our universe and what our relationship is with other potential intelligences on this planet. Now, obviously, playing the devil's advocate here, let's say that does happen. Let's say that this UAPDA gets passed and we get everything we're asking for. We get the enhanced whistleblower protections, and we get somebody that comes out and officially acknowledges that, okay, we are not alone on this planet. And if that's all that they said, would that not open up the floodgates to a whole litany of other questions? You bet it would. But at least it will it'll make people aware to the extent that, hey, we are not the only game in town as far as advanced evolution and intelligence goes. And I think that's the first crucial step, is acknowledging that we are not alone. And how we get there, I'm so glad that I'm not the one that's in charge of that. But I think this UAPDA, the thing I want to see the most out of this is enhanced whistleblower protections. So that what we saw happen to David Grush, where somebody, tries to go after him with what he has called administrative terrorism, that's the kind of stuff that whoever engages in that, engages in intimidation or retaliation against whistleblowers, they need to suffer consequences. There has to be teeth put to the provision whenever there is any kind of protection, so-called enhanced whistleblower protection afforded to whistleblowers. So that's what I want to see happen. I want to see this power of the subpoena put to both the Senate and the House in bringing forth people who otherwise would be considered hostile witnesses, people that don't want to have to talk, people that are alleged to have participated in the legacy programs. And we know that a lot of people that were involved in these legacy programs want to come forward and talk. So make the pathway available to them, offer them amnesty, offer them whatever it takes to get us to that point. And that's what it may have to be in some of these instances where the law was clearly broken. Offer some kind of amnesty and enhanced whistleblower protection. Those are the two key provisions that I think we need to see to really move this forward. Closing thoughts on that.
Give them tacos and cookies as well.
I enthusiastically support that notion, and I will drink to that.
Anything to entice them and protect them.
Yes.
Improve their well-being. Because that's a big step. To
Yep.
come out publicly and say, some of these sorts of things, but to actually go in front of Congress and testify or, something along those lines, you're putting your your life on the line. Maybe not literally, maybe
Right.
literally, probably not, but at least figuratively speaking, I mean, that could ruin your life. From then on, the rest of
Absolutely.
your life might just be dealing with the fallout from that, from choosing to do that. So,
Right.
it's a hurdle for people, I think, to get to that point where they want to speak out and feel comfortable and safe enough to do it. So, yeah, I
Most
agree. We should protect them.
most assuredly. Roger, what say you?
I will say everything. I agree with what you guys have said, and Jimm, I think you stated it very eloquently, and yeah, two thumbs up. I agree with it all. I don't really have much more to say on it other than I'm, super excited to see what happens, and I am remaining hopeful and positive that this age of disclosure will continue to happen. So,
Excellent. Well said. So let's wrap up tonight's discussion by once again touching upon that one subject that we started going down the rabbit hole with when we had Caleb Bench on recently. And of course, that's manifestation, right? Perhaps if we all, do this power of positive thinking type thing on the UAPDA, get everybody, hoping for it, maybe we can manifest change into happening. I think, it's I say it only half jokingly, folks, because I genuinely believe that manifestation is a thing. And I touched upon it briefly when we were talking with Caleb. And, you can ascribe any one of a number of rational or mundane or prosaic explanations as to every example that I give where I feel I've experienced an instance of manifestation coming into play with all of the cool stuff that I've done in my life. And, it, I'll go back as far as to when I met my wife. I remember the day that I first saw her on the college campus, over 30 years ago. And gosh, almost 35 years ago. Shh. But but I saw this beautiful woman walking across the courtyard in college, and thinking to myself, "Oh man, she is so beautiful." But she'd never, she'd never go on a date with me. She'd never say yes if I asked her out, and just didn't think it would be possible. And then I just, kept, when I'd see her, it'd be like, wow, she's so cool. And then, as fate would have it, the next semester we ended up in the same class. We ended up having a class together. And of course, as soon as I saw her in my class, I was like deer in the headlights, like, oh, what do I do now? And eventually, I worked up the courage to ask her out on a date. And much to my surprise, genuine surprise, she said yes. And my wife is in the other room, so she'll throw something at me if I get anything wrong. but basically, we went on our first date, and you want to talk about deer in the headlights, okay? Once I finally had her in my apartment, and I made this really wonderful Italian dinner. Italian food is kind of like my specialty. And for those that don't know, obviously music is my biggest passion, but after that, it's cooking. I love to cook. John and Roger, well, Roger, you've been to my house. You know how good my cooking is. You know how much I like to grill like steaks and stuff like that. And John, you've
oh yeah.
seen some of the pictures.
Sadly, I've only seen the pictures and have not been able to partake.
Soon, soon. But
Soon.
but so yeah, I made this wonderful dinner for my wife on our very first date. And I think I said maybe 10 words to her throughout dinner because I was, again, gosh, I got her here. What do I do now? It's like I couldn't believe there she was right here, in my apartment, sitting at the dinner table with me. And, so thankfully, though, we went out dancing afterward and, loosened up a little bit and ended up having just a fantastic evening. But, you know, I I fell in love with my wife, pretty much right then and there. And throughout the next couple of years, it was just like I knew that this was the woman that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. And So it was just something that I just had that power of positive thinking of, I really, really want this to happen. I'm going to do everything in my power to make it happen. And I guess that's maybe one of the aspects of manifestation is it doesn't just simply happen. I think there are still things that we have to do. There's still some kind of a work that we have to put into it to make these things happen or to make these things manifest for us. Like, I mean, let's go back to the example we gave last time about, here we are, John, in the Hitchhiker Band, and that was all. I mean, it wasn't just simply, oh, how cool would it be? I mean, you were actually there, you were playing the bass with them, so they saw, hey, this is a guy that really has some skill. Um, and
Well,
then,
no, I hadn't played with them at the time.
oh, you hadn't? Oh,
That
okay.
was the day I got stuck in Dallas and missed Travis and Jay and Micah playing together.
Ah, okay.
So they didn't know. They just kind of took a leap of faith,
Right.
but it worked out. You're right.
So, Roger, as you look back on your life, has there been any instances or moments where maybe it's been a goal or a dream or something like that that you've wanted to attain that, um, wherein you think that this principle of manifestation played out?
Yes, and in kind of in strange ways, but it's like my willingness to go out of my comfort zone and kind of look for something that I never thought was possible actually happened, and that was working because, as you guys know, I'm a video gamer and I love video games. And I never thought in my entire life that I would work for Blizzard Entertainment, who makes some of my favorite games throughout my life, right? And I, had thought about that and made that happen many, many years ago. And that pathway opened up so many different things. And that even ties back into because of my passion and working for Blizzard Entertainment in California. And that pathway not only led me to some of the great friendships that I have now, but actually helped introduce you and I to Caleb Bench,
Right.
to our love of video gaming and that connection there. Again, it's just I do believe in that manifestation and the positivity, and that's just one example in my life because of that. And yeah, I think that you create a lot of the stuff that can happen. And I mean, in addition, I'll just on a more personal note, because of that and that situation that I was in, it actually, because I have had, multiple heart surgeries, it actually led to a situation where by me being down there and getting to know the people that I know, led me to a position and a place where I was able to get my first heart surgery in a very difficult situation.
Mhm.
And again, had that not happened, things probably wouldn't have played out the way that they did. So I definitely believe in manifestation and that things happen for a reason.
Well, well said. I will just simply add my amen because I I have been fortunate enough, I've been blessed with the opportunity to have met, speaking of the music business, um, I grew up in a very rural part of upstate New York. And I know I've talked about this before, but if you had told the, teenage Jimm that one day not only would he attend the Grammy Awards multiple times and would be a member of the Academy, attending the Grammy Awards, that I would become close personal friends with several of my music heroes, get to work on a project with members of Depeche Mode and uh, Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark, which are two of the most influential artists that I grew up listening to, two of my biggest music heroes. And and then being able to do all the cool stuff and meet all of my heroes. Those were all dreams that I had. Those were things that I wished as a teenager someday I would have the opportunity to accomplish. And those things didn't just happen for me. It's not like the universe just said, "Okay, Jimm, you've been a good boy, so there you go." No, I still had to work at making every one of those opportunities happen. And some of them took harder work, if you will, than other things to make them into happening. But still, I had that dream, I had that goal, and I was able to manifest it into being by doing certain things, by meeting a certain number of people. And that's why I firmly believe, guys, is that it's no coincidence when fate, if you will, puts us in the path of certain people. And I think in particular, Roger, you just listed a great example of when you and I, the manner in which you and I met Caleb Bench and the way that that friendship began. I mean, literally, what are the odds of Caleb Bench of all people recognizing this obscure World of Warcraft symbol that you had on your notebook? And then that kicked off the conversation. Before we knew it, we were, sharing our background stories and, and finding so many things that you and I had in common with Caleb. And then that led us to, what we're talking about with you, John, with how you ended up coming into our lives, where Roger and I were hosting the Skinwalker Ranch Insider Family Reunion, and I think Roger, that was actually the year that you didn't go because you were sick. But John, you came to that, right?
Yep.
And you and I had our first conversation at that event at the Insider Family Reunion. So um, again, I don't believe there are any coincidences. I think that whatever it is that's out there is aware of what our hopes and our dreams and our goals are. And as long as we put forth some kind of an effort to move towards realizing those goals or those dreams and have that positive belief that we can make things happen, that again, fate, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, I think helps us to manifest those things into happening by putting the right people in front of us. And that is exactly what I think happened in my meeting both of you. And certainly I can ascribe that to all of my great friends that I've gotten to know at Skinwalker Ranch with Dr. Taylor, and of course the absolutely awesome Stratton family, who are like the Strattons are almost closer to me than my own in-laws are. So it's great. You meet these people that exceed every expectation and exceed everything that you hope that they would be, and that's gratefully has been my experience, and it's a very humbling experience for me, and I believe that manifestation really is a thing, and I've seen it play out so many times in my life, and it still continues to, you know, um, and I think that that's one of those mysteries that someday we're going to figure out, but I very much believe in it. John, how about you?
No, I agree. I think I've read a lot of books on it, thought about this a lot, never really believed it, but it sure kind of seems like it's safe to believe it because if you kind of focus on what you want, and then I think that a key component is not only the key component to manifesting is you need to take some action.
Yes.
And it might even be a little action.
Hmm.
Like you don't know what that action's going to be, but
Right.
you need to be doing things.
Hmm.
And if you have that goal in mind, completely unrelated stuff that you never could have possibly predicted will suddenly start happening, you
Yeah.
know, that will start leading you toward that and in ways that you could not have ever predicted. But I think that's the thing is you have to have a clear goal to sometimes you don't even have a clear goal and stuff just happens, but I think if you have a clear goal, something you want to manifest, and then just do something, take some actions of
Yeah.
some variety,
Hmm. Yeah.
and even if it seems unrelated, it might end up becoming related and steer you toward this goal by some strange path that you wouldn't have ever thought of. That's kind of how I see it.
Could not agree more. Roger, any closing thoughts on that before we wrap everything up?
No, I think we've all had great examples and instances in our lives of manifestation, and I would invite our viewers, our audience, to maybe think back about your life and different times that you may have had examples of manifestation in your life, and kind of think about what you want going forward. I'd be curious to hear people's thoughts and experiences and what they're looking forward to as well. So I'll leave it at that.
Awesome. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for the awesome conversation again tonight. You guys are the best. It's so much fun talking about all this strange and bizarre stuff with you guys, and it's always a good time. So, thanks to each of you, to you, Roger, and to you, John, for taking giving so generously of your time to this wonderful podcast here. And thank you to you, our viewers and subscribers. Speaking of which, if you have not yet subscribed to the Soul of the Unexplained, hit that hit that subscribe button down below and hit that thumbs up like button if you liked and appreciated what Roger and John and I talked about tonight. And like Roger said, if you have any insights you'd like to offer us into what your thoughts are on manifestation or anything along those lines, any of the topics we've talked about, UAPs, Skinwalker Ranch, you name it. Roger and John and I are all ears, and we'd love to hear what you guys think. Reach out to us on Facebook if you'd like to. We're at the Soul of the Unexplained on Facebook, and we're right here on YouTube as well. And again, a reminder to check out our good buddy Jeff Freeman and the J Free 906 podcast right here on YouTube. And he's another guy that if you haven't subscribed to, you're going to want to do that as soon as you can. And again, that URL for the Skinwalker Ranch Insider Program is skinwalker-ranch.com/insider. And then one more time for the UAPDA petition is uapda.org/petition. So let's all try this exercise in manifestation and signing that petition. And hopefully together we can manifest some success in getting this legislation passed, because heaven knows we'd like to see that happen. So closing thoughts or remarks from you. We'll start with you, Roger.
No, I hope this again. I really enjoyed our conversation here with you gentlemen tonight. Thank you, Jimm, for always being such a gracious host and co-host, and John, appreciate you being here as well and offering your thoughts and your experience. So I really look forward to our discussions and continue to look forward to that. And so to all of our listeners, thank you for listening and tuning in, and stay safe, and we'll be back at it here soon.
All right. Fantastic. Mr. John Neiberger. Is it
I,
Neiberger or Nyberger?
Nyberger.
It is Nyberger. Okay.
It's not like Micah Hanks says. For a year, he thought it was Nieberger. And he kept calling me that, and I just kept ignoring it. And then just a few weeks ago, I happened to say the name out loud, and he goes, "Wait, it's Nyberger? I've been saying Nieberger since last year." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know."
Okay.
So it's Nyberger.
Mr.
Yeah.
Whataburger.
Yeah, exactly.
Closing thoughts and remarks.
I echo Roger's sentiment. I love hanging out with you guys, and I just appreciate your time and this time we get together to just share our thoughts and kind of go down our rabbit holes and ramble a little bit and just have fun. So yeah,
Right on. Well, we sure appreciate you, and we appreciate you, our subscribers and our viewers. Thank you again for tuning into the Cheap Ass No Frills podcast, better known as the Soul of the Unexplained. I am your host, Jim Kelgard, and Roger and John and I will see you next time right here on the Soul of the Unexplained. See ya.